Now, coming up here on Closing Bell, we speak to the Nigerian Minister for Agriculture about the economic challenges faced by the country's new president-elect. You're watching European Closing Bell here on this Wednesday afternoon. Now, Nigeria's president-elect, General Muhammadu Buhari, is due to take office next month, with energy generation and corruption being some of the bigger challenges that he's facing. Joining us now is Dr. Akinwumi Adesina, Nigerian Minister for Agriculture. Welcome, sir.
Hi, Lisa. Good to be here.
Good to have you with us. The election, there was a lot of speculation about what would happen in the aftermath of the election and how long would it take to basically stabilize the country and to to stabilize the economy as well, and to get it back on track.
Right. Well, it's been a great election. I mean, you had, the president actually considered the election way even before the votes were counted. I think that was great, remarkable leadership on his side. But I also think that it tells you about the resilience of the incoming president-elect, in terms of pursuing the democratic sphere, continuously for 4 years. I think it's Nigeria that actually won. I think Nigeria has shown real leadership, not only in Africa, but actually in the world. I'm actually just coming in from the World Bank IMF spring meetings in Washington, and we had the Nigerians, outgoing economic team and the incoming team actually together working with rating agencies and talking about all of the macroeconomic and fiscal reforms that are needed in Nigeria. I think it just shows how incredible this transition is. It's very, very smooth. And I think the financial markets have understood that, and it's very stable. And I think it's fantastic for Nigeria, and I think it's a great testimony of what development needs to be in Africa. What
do you think are some of the bigger issues that need to be worked on, though?
Well, I think, like any other economy in Africa, Nigeria's economy is the biggest right now in Africa. But at the same time, we are pretty much a monomodal economy, so we need to continue to diversify the economy, like every other African economy that are actually growing because of high dependence on commodity price increases. So we've got to diversify the economy more. But I also think that's very important for us to expand the fiscal space in terms of being able to use more taxes and tax administration to be able to harness a lot more domestic resources. Well, take it. I mean, if all the commodity price volatilities go on, Africa can become almost like a giant on a feet of clay, and that's why, even running for the president of Africa Development Bank, and one of the things that I will be pushing for is to make sure African countries, a lot more of them, have sovereign wealth funds. We only have, out of $7 trillion or sovereign wealth fund in the world today, only 2%. $158 billion is in Africa. So we've got to actually do that and have saving for the rainy day, so you can deal with some of the cyclical issues that you have in the commodity markets.
I've heard others make that point as well, with regards to the potential of sovereign wealth funds in Africa.
Yes.
Kashtan, what are your thoughts?
I think what you said is very right. I think, first of all, with the negative terms of trade shock that we've seen at the moment, there's a lot of negative views about emerging markets in general, right? Because obviously the oil price hurt Nigeria, and then in that moment to show the strengths of democratic institutions, the continuation that one sees in kind of a smooth transition of leadership, that was, I think, was very important. I think it is a first step. I do think, as you said, there are now more. They need to follow, I think, to fully regain investor confidence, in particular in further strengthening, domestic institutions, etc. Because if you want to diversify away from be it oil or be it in other countries, other commodities, and to get a vibrant non-commodity related sector, the quality of institutions, the need for structural reforms then becomes more important. And it's easy to preach. I know it's difficult to invest, but I think investors now, in the last 2 years, are increasingly focusing on this, as the commodity demand from China is simply no longer making it an easy ride.
At the same time, also, you're being backed by President-elect Buhari to run as the next president for the African Development Bank. So if you are to take on that position, what would you hope to do?
Well, first and foremost, I'm so delighted and grateful to President-elect for backing me for the presidency of the Africa Development Bank. If you take a look at the growth trajectory for Africa, it's been great, 6% growth rate and so on. But however, that growth trend is actually not an inclusive growth. And so you have a lot of inequalities today between countries and within countries. If you take a look at the massive massive migration from rural to urban areas. A lot of Africans that are going into Europe and just trying to go there and get a job and get a life there, and that's a big problem. Urbanization is a big problem. Climate change is a big problem in Africa, but also is the increased number of countries that are listed as fragile states. And so I have set a vision for the bank, which is to have an Africa that is prosperous, but also have shared prosperity, African that is linked to each other and all of that, and therefore competitive also globally in the global market. To have that kind of Africa, I have listed in my vision 5 priority areas. First and foremost is to build on the great work that Donald Kaberuka has done for the bank, and therefore have smart infrastructure, to increase the competitiveness of Africa. But also, the second area is to focus on growing private sector in Africa for wealth creation. The third area will be to create jobs, for a lot of jobs actually, for Africa's youth and women. And the fourth area will be in terms of reviving our rural economies, because most of Africa's poor people, over 44% that are still living on less than $1.25 a day are living in rural areas. But agricultural transformation is the way in which you can lift hundreds of millions of people out of poverty. And the last one is just regional integration for shared prosperity. This is what the vision is, but I also bring to this 25 years of global experience in development finance, investment, partnership, and raising money. So I bring a heart to this, a lot of experience to this. I've lived and worked in more than 15 African countries, including 10 years in Francophone countries. So I'm fluent in French, and so I think I have what it takes to actually lead the bank to have this inclusive growth.
Well, we look forward to having you back on the show again in whatever post in the future. So thank you very much, Dr. Adesina, Minister of Agriculture for Nigeria. Thank you so much.